the current state of the SABC in the public's interest? Why is the SABC in the midst of a financial crisis? How does the current state of the broadcaster impact its employees? What role can unions play under these circumstances? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. Khotso, my name is Mpho Sedu. While the interim board of the SABC is yet to be installed, the state of its finances continues to make headlines. In a recent interview with a daily newspaper, acting chief executive James Aguma painted a picture of an organization in dire financial situation. This he blamed on a drop on advertising revenue due to the global economic decline, as well as the expenses incurred in running this news division. Aguma has also confirmed that all the employees and freelancers will be paid at the end of this month at least. But what needs to be done to help move the public broadcaster forward? We are live and therefore you are able to call us and air your views. The numbers to dial is 089-110-4210 or tweet us your comments. Our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24. My guest today is Duani Gumani. He is the General Secretary of the Media Workers Association of South Africa, and we expect to be joined by William Bird, Director of Media Monitoring Africa, who will be joining us on the line. I think we have him as well. Gentlemen, let me welcome you. Duani, it's quite a pleasure having you around here. You are the General Secretary of the Media Workers Association of South Africa, and fortunately you are also a former employee of the SABC for many, many years. Just give us Muasa's perspective on the state of the SABC as we speak.
Well, first, thank you for having us. If we're to go back to the beginning, we were very pleased with the concept of the SABC being the first transformation project of the what we call it, a democratic dispensation. It was a lot of hard work that was put in, and for some time we had some sort of a honeymoon period, and we drafted new policies. We got the buy-in of everybody else. We were changing the SABC from a state broadcaster to a public broadcaster to serve the interests of the public, not narrow national interests or any other interests for that matter, but just the general public. And the understanding was that we needed to make sure that the SABC is indeed in the ownership of the public, which will then mean that the public would have a direct stake. Not the new definition of a stakeholder now. That the SABC will belong to the citizenry of South Africa in the same space as the understanding that South Africa belongs to all who live in it. The difficulty had always been, how do we fund the SABC? You know, you could get the policies right, you could get the people, the right people in the space, but there's always been a difficulty in how the SABC is funded. Now, discussions have always been held, but some of us, as Muasa in particular, have always held the view that anything that is public, by definition, must necessarily be funded from the public purse. That did not materialize, obviously, because there were other competing interests at the time, and the understanding was that further down the line, maybe we might be able to get full funding for the public broadcaster. In the interim, the public broadcaster was then forced to find other sources of funding, and the most readily available were, from commercial efforts and so on and so forth. So as we speak right now, we're talking about 85% benefit of the SABC from commercial interests, and it probably allows you 2% from government interventions. It is a sad situation. But you asked me and I said let's go back to the beginning. There was a time when we understood that the mandate of the SABC was paramount to the activities of the SABC. When the Broadcasting Act was split into two, PBS and PCBS, some of us raised concerns, and the concerns were that the philosophy behind that was that the commercial aspects of the SABC will cross-subsidize the public mandate. Well, it didn't work out. I mean, it so happens that Ukhozi FM is a public, African language station, is the biggest radio station, and it necessarily cross-subsidizes the other smaller stations, even including the commercial stations. You look at SABC 1, SABC 2, which are public in the public space, are actually cross-subsidizing SABC 3, which was the commercial. So the model itself would have failed from from when it started. It then, as we continued, we decried political interference. Now there are various versions of political interference, and this is where we lose it. Political interference in the sense that we were beginning to move towards an SABC that is no longer a public broadcaster, but more a state broadcaster. You began to see a bigger role being played by the minister and so on and so forth, to the point where now as we speak, you effectively have almost an executive minister in terms of the memorandum of incorporation and so on and so forth. So just to get to the point that you're asking about the current financial situation of the SABC, we could have seen it coming from back then. And as Moasa, we raised that flag very high, and for our sins, we were exiled. We remain in exile now, even at the SABC.
Okay. All right. By the way, our production team tried for weeks to get hold of the acting group chief executive officer, Mr. Aguma. We tried to get Kaiser Hanyaho, no response, and unbelievable as it may be, we're probably in the same building, but we can't get them to come and talk to us on this platform about this issue. And it's a matter which we thought we need to share with you as our viewers as well, that indeed we have tried. It doesn't make sense all the time to talk about the SABC, and the SABC is not represented. So we're taking your calls, 089-110-4210. William Bird, you are on the line. What are your views? Well, I'm sure a couple of people may be relieved that at least this month they will be paid, but beyond this, well, we don't know.
Hi, good afternoon, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there in the studio. So I think, Tawani's painted a very comprehensive picture of how we got to where we are, and I think it's important for viewers to consider this, that a number of private broadcasters, a number of small community broadcasters are able to make a commercial success of existing. The fact that the SABC, commanding the audiences that they have, is unable to be a commercial success doesn't speak to the quality of the people that are there. We know we're able to produce some outstanding programming. We've got some of the best camera people in the world. We've got outstanding talent, outstanding actors, drama people. Across all of these parameters, we excel, and yet still we aren't able to make money from something that actually is like shooting fish in a barrel, which doesn't speak, as I said, to the talent of those at the SABC, but rather to the way and the manner in which it has been managed. And I think that it's not too much of a stretch to suggest that with the right kind of management team, with people that actually have some kind of an interest and passion for the broadcasting, we can get the SABC to not only be to balance its books, but to actually make some kind of profit. Of course, the question there is whether or not you wanted to make a profit. We would know that the ANC's latest draft discussion document on communication talks about finding an alternative funding model for the SABC, and that's a question that we need to have on a national basis. But the reality is simply this. The SABC should not be making the kind of losses that it is making. It is due largely and almost exclusively to, as Tawani's pointed out, ministerial interference, political interference.
William, I'm battling to hear you. I'm battling to hear you. I'm going to ask our technical team to just try and redial that. But, Duani, well, the group CEO said, the acting group CEO said, people will be paid this month. You know, just like SASA, we are guaranteed that, you know, people will be paid. But beyond this month, we don't know.
Look, first, I can't speak for the SABC.
Yeah,
that's one. And secondly, I can't speculate on the books of the SABC, given the fact that for many years there's been contestations around the quality of the reportage of the SABC's finances. You would hear the Auditor General having a view, and the SABC having its own, you know, differing view. And so it's always been a moving target as to where the SABC is and what causes the SABC, as William says, there are very small little broadcasting outfits in the whole country that are making it. It's the same example as people, you know, always give of SAA versus Ethiopia or Tanzania. You understand? Where a very small, very lowly subsidized entity is able to make it very big. Now, the SABC is the biggest broadcaster in the continent. It happens to be. As we speak right now, I mean, what is 19 radio stations and 4 or 5 television channels, and there is no advertiser, however aggrieved by the conduct of the leadership of the SABC and about bad publicity and so on and so forth, that could actually simply forego the traction that they get by advertising for the SABC.
Are you saying that James Aguma is lying?
I can tell you this, or some of us have also been blamed for speaking bad of the SABC. And I don't remember the time when I actually said something bad about the SABC, or when Mwasa actually said the SABC is a bad organization. I think what we've said is that the SABC has some of the best policies, both corporate governance, human resources management, and so on and so forth. Financial, the policies are there. We know some of those things because some of us actually worked on the development of those policies. The problem has been the preference for deviating from the standards that are there. Now, that also speaks to why people are saying we will not be able to pay, well, we will pay you this month. This has always been the case. I mean, there are people that are guaranteed that they are paid, and there are those that are going to be told you are going to be treated. I've just been informed that so-called middle management, now we will get to the politics of who middle management actually is. I've just been told that middle management have just received letters of announcing salary increments of, what is it, about 10,000 rands each or something like that, which would lift individuals from somebody from 45,000 to 55,000 to 65,000. Now you multiply that over a year, it's quite substantial. It's 120,000 rands on your salary. Now the questions we were asking is, where does because I mean, we've got, as I said, the policies are absolutely great. You've got a delegation of authority framework, which is a policy that regulates, the levels of authority to okay certain particular things. Now the question is, in the absence of a board, where is the authority to implement that salary increment? And it's all hearsay. I've not actually seen the letter.
Okay.
But I'm just saying that this is the problem. There was a point where we warned that, and we actually wrote to the president. There's no question. We actually wrote to the president. We said there will come a time when we will have no minister, we will have no board, and we will have no executive. This is the time now. It's happened. In 2012, we raised these issues about financial, fiduciary, and fiscal discipline at the SABC. We raised the issue about the purging of executives and positions hanging for ages and ages at a cost to the SABC, by the way, with a second person acting in that position. So you're paying twice for a position. So the financial management and, as I said, fiscal discipline has been a challenge for the SABC. Okay,
we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we must talk about this. A lot of people who are facing job losses right here at the SABC, freelancers in the main. What are unions going to do about such people, or what can unions do to save the jobs of those who are likely to lose their jobs? either end of this month or end of next month. And we'll be taking your call 089-110-4210, 089-110-4210. And a reminder that indeed, I know for a fact that the production team did try to get hold of Mr. James Aguma and Kaiser Khanyago to come at least to speak on behalf of the SABC. We have not yet received any response. We shall return.
The only way to pour the perfect beer, this professional barman would tell you, is into a glass tilted at exactly 45 degrees. Oh, bless you. Bless you, sir. Bless you again. Well, we'd say the perfect way to pour a beer is at this angle, straight into your mouth. Tops its bar. Good beer, good advice, no Ponzi beer stuff.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. My guest today is Tuani Gumani. Tuani is the General Secretary at the Media Workers Association of South Africa, Mwasa. And joining us on the line, William Bird is the Director of Media Monitoring Africa. And let me repeat, we had invited James Aguma, the acting GCEO, and Kaiser Khanyago, who speaks on behalf of the SABC. Unfortunately, they have not arrived. But let me just check with you, William. Like I was saying, there's a lot of freelance contracts that are almost going to an end, and are likely not going to be renewed. So quite a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, and there have been an outcry. People are saying no, some are being replaced by freelancers. What kind of a situation is this? What should be happening in that event?
So I think that what needs to be happening is that we need some kind of real commitment to public broadcasting. We need a real commitment to running the organization with a measure of an understanding of what good corporate governance is. To be clear, there's no good reason why the SABC should not be able to not only be financially sustainable, but actually to be a profitable entity. Whether or not that's desirable as a public broadcaster is a separate question. But the simple reality is that it's due to poor management, it's due to any number of crises that are often self-manufactured that has left the SABC in this position where, once again, ordinary citizens are going to suffer because the kind of local content and the quality local content programming that we're going to need is not going to be able to be produced because the SABC is yet again in financial crisis. If you look at it, 2013, 2014, the SABC had a surplus of 300 million rand. Last year they went down to a loss of 400 million rand. That's 700 million rand lost in 2 years. How on earth does that happen? And why is there no accountability for those kinds of actions? Those are the kinds of things we need to ask because, again, we have the talent, we have the skills, we have incredible stories that we have yet to tell in our country. It can't be that it's because those stories are costing us money. It's got to be about management and a lack of political will that has put us in this crisis point yet again.
Okay, hold it there. Tuan, the workers.
There was a time when some of us asked the question, who benefits from a dysfunctional SABC?
Yeah.
And the answer came with a lot of political weight. But the reality of the matter in the final analysis is that, and let me say this, there are excellent workers at the SABC, top of the crop. And we were, for many years as SABC, and I will say we, I still regard myself as an employee of the SABC one way or the other, but I will say the SABC was one of the top 5 broadcasters in the world. From that point to where we are now, as we were warning earlier on, the shenanigans that were happening, and then some of us find fault even right up to the presidency, because I mean, ministers serve at the pleasure of the president. We are most likely facing the possibility of minister number 6 since 2009. Minister number 6 since 2009. That tells you that policy stability is just not there. And if, as they say, fish rots from the head, I'm not surprised that we're at a situation now where, because as I said, fiscal discipline, as I said, the policies are there, the accounting procedures and so on and so forth are there. It's just we've given ourselves to the influence of personality cults, some mavericks, some that are even defined by the public protector as pathological in a way, and then we've given to this. I think the solution, by the way, before we even talk about just freelancers, there are production houses. Ordinary, and look at the value chain, freelancers that are freelancing at production houses as well. So it's a whole industry that is going to suffer because the SABC is in trouble. But to answer your question directly, in 2008, 2009, the SABC got a government loan guarantee. It was squandered because that's seed finance to get you out of the troubles that you're in. It was squandered. Are we looking at an interim board coming in along with some other tranche of money? What then, if that is the situation, what do we do? I know we can moan about, this is the current situation now, but let's try and see if there's anything in the future that might look positive. What would we do in a situation where production is not going to be, the SABC's own production. You remember, we outsourced a lot of production, outsourced a lot of workers. We now use freelancers. We can have a debate as to whether it's good to be a freelancer or it's not. We know it works for some, it doesn't work for everybody else. Yeah. And we also know that it works for the SABC, it also doesn't work for the SABC. Sometimes the SABC pays twice for own skill. And so we would need to look at that equation at some point and really drill into it. But the current situation now is untenable. You are not going to, because of the maleficence and malevolent conduct of some individuals, condemn a whole 3,800 plus, let's just assume about 2,000, 3,000 freelancers, almost 6,000 people's livelihoods condemned because of the misconduct and misbehavior and self-serving interests of a few people. I don't think that's how South Africa wants to develop going forward. And I think what is important is for us to start taking collective responsibility for all of this, as in take collective ownership for the SABC, and therefore also take collective leadership and take collective responsibility. The role of the unions is to at least marshal the voices and the interests and the energies of workers in this direction. One of the best weapons the SABC has used has been to divide workers. There were times when there will be sweeteners, and at the time nobody wanted to listen to anybody else. Nobody wanted to listen to sense, nobody wanted to listen to anything. It was just, there's a sweetener, life goes on. Now, we cannot have an organization that is run piecemeal like that. We would need to start looking at what is the emergency situation now, how do we resolve that, and I would assume that because, well, we're not a state broadcaster, but we're a public, an organ of state, that we possibly might be looking at another government loan guarantee, another bailout. Okay. And if there's a bailout, the question is, how are we going to use the bailout? Because there are all sorts of other creditors elsewhere, people that are owed money. And I would assume freelancers, under the circumstances in terms of our Labor Relations Act, the freelancers might actually be put right at the tail end of the beneficiaries in case there's a government loan guarantee. Yeah, well, they are reminded almost every day that they must be grateful that you've got a job. But that was question time for today. A big thank you to my guests and to you for watching the show. From me and the entire crew, Mudimali at the hand.